నీతో నిలబెట్టి చెప్పు మా సార్ వాళ్ళు నుండి జిరాక్స్ తీసివ్వండి చాలు చెప్పలే ఇట్లా మా సార్ చెప్పారు. No, secretary, building cost.
PC Photo Venu Ana 2533. Raju.
Good morning. It's my privilege to welcome you all to the Andhra Pradesh Police Retreat 2026, Future Ready Andhra Pradesh Police. At the outset, I extend a warm and respectful welcome to our chief guest, Srimati Vangarapudi Anita Garu, Honorable Minister for Home Affairs and Disaster Management, Government of Andhra Pradesh. I request Srimati Bhavna, DSP PCS, to welcome Madam with a bouquet. I also extend a very warm welcome to Shri Harish Kumar Gupta, IPS Director General of Police, HOPF, Andhra Pradesh. I request Dr. Shri Veda, ACP Vijayawada, to welcome sir. I welcome all our distinguished senior officers, all participating IPS officers, subject matter experts from IITs, IIMs, and other premier institutes, and media personnel present here today. A similar retreat of Andhra Pradesh police officers was last held in 2001. At that time, left-wing extremism was one of the most serious challenges confronting the state. Andhra Pradesh police has successfully brought this problem under control and stood as a role model in its intelligence-led operations and specialized capabilities, with Greyhounds SIB becoming benchmarks at the national level. 25 years later, we meet once again at a moment of profound change. The challenges before us today are very different and in many respects even more complex. The vision of this retreat is to build an Andhra Pradesh police that can prevent harm before it occurs, operate with equal confidence in both the physical and digital domains, and emerge as one of the finest public safety institutions by 2025. Just as Andhra Pradesh police successfully rose to the defining challenge of left-wing extremism in an earlier era, this retreat calls upon us to recognize and prepare for the defining challenges of the coming era. The threats may have changed, but the qualities required of us remain constant: foresight, professionalism, courage, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to the safety and dignity of every citizen. Once again, I extend a most cordial welcome to our Honorable Minister, our Director General of Police, all distinguished dignitaries, and every officer participating in this important retreat. Thank you and a very warm welcome to you all. This retreat is a product of benevolent guidance and vision of our DGP sir. So now I request Shri Harish Kumar Gupta, IPS Director General of Police, HOPF, Andhra Pradesh, to deliver the welcome address.
A very warm welcome and good morning to all of you. Honorable Home Minister Vangarapudi Anita Garu, all the guests from the IITs and IIMs and other reputed institutions, press and media. For next couple of minutes, I would be talking on few points which will guide us through next 20 years when we land up in 2047, how we should be. It's not a usual thought process as we complete the 100 years of independence, how we should be. And for next 20 years, if we had to change, we had to change in next 20 years. No police force can change in overnight, so it requires a very deliberate effort. The purpose of gathering here for this retreat, the idea was we had some idea in 2025, something we could not do, and after 25 years, 2001, when I was the SP, that was the last retreat we had. It's a thought. All the police leadership, the top leadership, which is leading the police force, has to sit down coolly, away from the routine duties, and think what should we do, how we should go forward. So I'll not be talking about the force we have. I am going to talk about the force we have not yet built. How do we build this force? So this is all the idea behind this thing. And let me tell you, this is not a sermon or anything like that. It's an argument. And I'll try to make you uncomfortable. Just a thought-provoking thoughts I'll be telling you, because comfort is one thing a force cannot afford. And when the word policies is being rewritten in single budget cycles, we have to change. 10 questions let me ask you. The 10 questions are, if Andhra Pradesh police did not exist and we were founded tomorrow with a blank sheet and everything we know now, would we build the police stations or circles or subdivisions or the districts, or would we build something else? World is going to be flat with the influx of technology. How do we take it forward? Jurisdictions don't matter anymore. So this is a big question before us. How do we answer it? Let me give you another example. A doctor is judged by the illness he or she prevents, not the surgery she performs or the medication. Why do we still have to measure ourselves as a police force with the crimes that already have taken place and crime statistics rather than the harms that were prevented? How do we achieve this? So that is going to be a big question before us. That's the second question. The third is, the crime scene of 2047 or 2045, whatever you call it, will not have any human in it. No fingerprints, no blood, no geography, no jurisdiction. An offender sitting couple of countries away defrauds a farmer, say in Anandpur, or an anonymous script commits 10,000 extortions before breakfast. How do you cope with it? That's the question. Let us take an example of air traffic control. It watches every object in the sky and no one thinks it is strange. By 2045, the airspace below 1,000 feet will carry more daily traffic than the National Highway 16 of AB. Are we equipped to handle it? So that's the question. When we talk about road safety and all that, these are outdated concepts now. Urban mobility. How do we tackle these? Are we prepared for it? Do we have these institutions with us? Now we can, now we are at the stage of automating the summons, verification, challan, the first level analytics. Where is the bright line we will never cross? The decision that touches the citizen's liberty. How do we deal with the citizen of tomorrow? And this is, I'm talking about those police officers who are still in school, who will join the force, say next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. How do we train them? How do we equip them to deal with all these challenges? If you look around our ecosystem and the surroundings, the world is changing very fast. And police forces across the country, I don't have any hesitation in saying, are very static. When we are formed and say, for the next decade may never touch our infrastructure at all. It will target our people's mind, which you are seeing now. How the recent happenings surrounding us. People's mind is something. How do we deal with it? Our elections, our trust in each other through deep fakes and manufactured outrage. That's another question we have to answer. We have to prepare. We have to skill ourselves. whatever. The threat is arriving at very fast pace as a code, as a crypto, as a synthetic media. I'm not talking about regular media. Please don't mistake me. I'm talking about synthetic media, built-up media. Whom do we take? What kind of qualifications do we require for our force? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. Very, very pertinent question. Because the people who are getting recruited now, they will be serving till 2060, 65 or something, even now. Let me take example of Formula One. It changes 4 tires when the car is stopped in under 2 seconds. Emergency response numbers. Everybody is operating in a silo and responding to the calls as of now. How do we integrate so that citizen doesn't distinguish whether he is calling on X number or Y number or Z number? He wants a response and uniform response all the time. That's a challenge. How do we prepare our force to respond to that? So all these questions we must answer in this retreat, and we have got 3 days. Medicine stopped waiting for patients to collapse. It learned to screen, to vaccinate, to intervene early. Our equivalent is digital human safety grid. Can we do it? And how fast we can do it? And a risk and referral register, uniting police, health, education, women and child welfare, mental health, to spot the 7 preventable harms. In one of the districts, and then we can take it forward on pilot basis. So we must learn from the medicine how it evolved. Similarly, we have to evolve, integrate with everything, and then give a uniform. How do we design it? Are we ready for it? All those questions have to be answered. Now, let us like banks have certain, alert systems. These transactions are suspicious. So they have alert. A similar thing we have to evolve here. So Formula One example I have given you. The maybe like intelligence, intelligence we are doing, your special branch change. Can we that he can prevent crime? So these are all the questions you will be doing it over a period of time, and then we'll have our short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans. For that, we have to devise a workable solution in next 3 days. What will be our target, say, in 0 to 3 years, 3 to 7 years, 7 to 12 years? This thing. Now we have this, 6 working groups. So I hope all of you will be doing, this thing. Next vital question: what will be the role of an IPS officer in 2047? Have you ever thought of it? We cannot continue like this, or many of you will be in the service much beyond that. Okay. Knowledge, skills, update your skills like that. So these are the few, questions I wanted to tell you. This is how this retreat is going to work, and this is how we are going to, this thing. I have given you some reading material. I'll be giving you reading. I don't know whether you have given or not. I have given you some reading material. Please go through it. It's very AP specific. Apart from, and when you are discussing in the groups, my suggestion to all of you, please go through the data also, previous data, as far as you can go. Study the data, go through, reading material, discuss. That's why we wanted all the 6 working groups, to deliberate on all the 6 topics, sitting separately, so that you get the whole perspective rather than getting confined to a particular group. So let us design a police force for 2047, a new force, the new institutions, the new skill sets, and with the urge to serve the nation. And as the nation turns 100 years, that will be our defining moment, how we have changed ourselves. Thank you. Good day.
To design police organization of 2047. It is now my privilege to invite Srimati Vangalpudi Anita Garu, Honorable Minister for Home Affairs and Disaster Management, Government of Andhra Pradesh, to deliver the inaugural address.
First of all, the manchi privilege manandariki kuda around 2001 anukunta, I think so. ఆ టైంలో ఈ రీట్రీట్ కార్యక్రమం అన్నది 2001 గౌరవ ముఖ్యమంత్రి, ప్రస్తుత ముఖ్యమంత్రి, అప్పుడు ముఖ్యమంత్రి చంద్రబాబు నాయుడు గారు ఉన్నప్పుడే ఇటువంటి కార్యక్రమానికి ఆ రోజు శ్రీకారం చుట్టడం, మళ్ళీ అగైన్ 25 సంవత్సరాల తర్వాత 25 years తర్వాత మరి ఇటువంటి కార్యక్రమాన్ని శ్రీకారం చుట్టడమే కాకుండా ఇంత సక్సెస్ఫుల్గా నడిపిస్తున్నందుకు ప్రత్యేకంగా గౌరవ డీజీపీ గారికి మీ అందరి తరపున, రాష్ట్రం తరపున ప్రత్యేకంగా నేను ధన్యవాదాలు.
मत संख्या 1B पर वर्णित पेपर्स आपकी अनुमति से सदन के पटल पर रखता हूं।
श्रीमती अनुप्रिया पटेल जी।
Chairman sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table of the House papers mentioned against my name at serial number 1C in the revised list of business for today.
श्रीमान BL वर्मा जी।
आदरणीय सभापति महोदय, आपकी अनुमति से आज राज्यसभा की संशोधित कार्य सूची के क्रम संख्या 1D पर अपने नाम के सम्मुख अंकित प्रपत्र सभा पटल पर रखता हूं।
श्रीमान शांतनु ठाकुर जी।
Honorable Chairman sir, with your kind permission, I rise to lay on the table of the House the paper mentioned against my name, serial number 1E, today's revised list of business. Thank you.
श्रीमान सुरेश गोभी जी।
Respected Chairman sir, with your permission, I rise to lay the papers on the table of the House listed against my name at serial number 1F in today's revised list of business. Thank you.
श्रीमान हर्ष मल्होत्रा जी।
जी, आपकी अनुमति से मैं आज की संशोधित कार्यसूची में मेरे नाम के सामने वर्णित पत्रों को क्रमांक संख्या 1G पर जो वर्णित है उनको सदन के पटल पर रखता हूं।
Statement by Ministers, श्रीमान हर्ष मल्होत्रा जी on behalf of श्रीमान पंकज चौधरी जी।
माननीय सभापति जी, आपकी अनुमति से मैं आज की कार्यसूची में अपने वरिष्ठ सहयोगी श्री पंकज चौधरी जी के नाम के सामने मत संख्या 2-1 पर वर्णित प्रतिवेदनों के संबंध में वक्तव्य सदन के पटल पर प्रस्तुत करता हूं।
श्रीमान हर्ष मल्होत्रा जी।
माननीय सभापति जी, मैं आपकी अनुमति से आज की कार्यसूची में क्रम संख्या 2-2 पर मेरे नाम के सामने उल्लेखित वक्तव्य को सदन के पटल पर रखता हूं।
I have to inform members that the Business Advisory Committee in its meeting held on the 23rd March 2026 has allotted time for government legislative business as follows. Item number 1, consideration and passing of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill 2025. After it is considered and passed by Lok Sabha, 4 hours. Consideration and passing of the Central Armed Police Forces General Administration Bill 2026 after its introduction, 8 hours. I have to inform members that a communication has been received from Sriman Ravangwara Narsari ji, member, regarding his leave of absence from 9th March to 2nd April 2026 during the current 270th session of Rajya Sabha due to prior committed engagements. Does he have the permission of the House for or remaining absent from 9th March to 2nd April 2026 during the current session of the Rajya Sabha? Yes. Permission to remain absent is granted. Now matters raised with permission. Shriman Subhash Chandra Bose Billy ji.
Honorable Chairman sir, thank you very much sir. My subject is National Highways Declaration, Kakinada Amalapuram Road from Narakudu to Amalapuram via Traksharama, Kotipalli, Mukteswari across River Godavari. The entire road is in Amalapuram Parliament segment. Andhra Pradesh. And out of 7 assembly segments, Amalapuram Parliament, 5 segments are in Konaseema, that is Amalapuram, Mummadvaram, Pigannavaram, Rajur and Kottapeta are in Konaseema, along Konaseema region, along with right bank of the river Godavari, and the remaining 2 assembly constituencies, Ramachandrapuram and Mandapeta segments are in left bank of the river Godavari, and also district collectorate and other district offices are situated at Amalapuram. After district's reorganization, the Mandapeta segment is merged in East Godavari district. Its headquarters is at Rajamahendavaram. The only one Ramachandra assembly segment is in Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Konaseema district, which is on left bank of the river Godavari. The public are facing much inconvenience and facing troubles due to this reorganization. To overcome these troubles, it is necessary to provide said connectivity, which is urgent need of the public and people of Amalapuram Parliament constituency. The National Highway Authorities, Andhra Pradesh, has already submitted the DPR to the Ministry of National Highways. I urge the Honorable Prime Minister to take up this work under PM Gati Shakti scheme, along with the bridge on river Godavari at Kotupalli, which is very useful to provide best traffic facilities to the public. Thank you, sir.
I'm balling, making tons of money. I was in the middle of a massive fraud. So I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'll just create my own borrowers. They now call these borrowers synthetic identities. I figured out how to get Social Security to issue me Social Security numbers to children that do not exist. I've had 27 driver's licenses in 7 different states, 24 passports. If I get pulled over, I'm not worried. You pull me over, I'm driving as Michael Eckert.
The name doesn't exist, nothing.
No.
How do you usually introduce yourself?
Matthew Cox, former con man. I was #1 on the Secret Service's most wanted list. I was also on the FBI's most wanted list, U.S. Marshals most wanted list. Eventually I got in trouble.
The most wanted man in America at one time, basically.
At one point. I also write true crime books. The podcast is about true crime. And I
think that's the name of your podcast too, right?
Yeah, it's Matt Cox Inside True Crime.
True crime, yeah.
And so that's pretty much it. I mean, I do speaking engagements, and then, sometimes my wife and I go on vacation, and I have a very simple life,
Amazing. Tell us, does a day in the life of Matthew Cox? What do you do, in your
now?
Day? Nowadays, basically.
Oh, okay.
How do you start your day?
So I think I get up at, I always joke around. My wife and I get up at 5 o'clock because she went to prison for 5 years also. Yeah. Basically, we always joke, we get up at 5 o'clock.
Basically, you have a crime family.
I have a crime family, my own crime family. Okay. We get up at 5 o'clock because that's when the guards turn on the lights. Because we were both in prison, that's when at 5 o'clock they would turn on the lights and they'd start counting everybody. So you basically, after...
Put attendance.
Yeah, you figure after I did 13 years, after 13 years, I just can't sleep past 5. So I wake up at 4:30 or 5 anyway.
How was your childhood like? Were you a troublemaker when you were a child?
My mother was a devout Catholic. I was raised Catholic. Okay. So I went to Sunday school, and I went to what they call CCD. My father worked for State Farm Insurance. He worked there, I want to say, 40 years.
Amazing. Made good money. Insurance has good money.
Yeah, back then you made a lot better money than you do now.
Now it's just struggling.
He probably made $250,000, $350,000 a year, and this was 20, 30 years ago, right? 40 years ago. Yeah. He did very well. We were raised upper middle class. My father was an alcoholic. He was what you would call a functioning alcoholic. He would go on, these 2-week drunken, benders. And so he'd be drunk for a couple days, and he'd kind of be able to hide it, but then he couldn't. And then it'd be 2 weeks of him just being a complete drunk and just belligerent and calling people names and just being horrific. And then after about 2 weeks, his State Farm would realize what was kind of going on. Oh. And so they would clean him up, put him in a rehab. Wow. He'd go into a rehab for 30 days or 60 days, and he'd come out, and then he'd be good for a couple of years. And then he'd...
Back to the
same thing. And sometimes he could clean up by himself. Maybe after a week or two, my mother would cover for him. She was an enabler. Oh, he's sick. There's all those chaotic times where we had to all of the kids grabbed what they could carry, put into a suitcase and then moved out of the house for a week and stayed with a family friend until my dad sobered up, and then we would all move back in and act like nothing happened. So it was chaotic in that sense. I also went to schools for kids with learning disabilities, so I'm already feeling insecure, and I've got a father that once a year, every 6 months, turns into this asshole and tells me, you're a loser, you're never going to be anything, you're stupid, that sort of thing. He would sober up and apologize, and everything's okay then, but you're a little kid, that doesn't,
you don't
go
understand
away.
the world,
Right. So in that respect, it was odd. And then, of course, I went to these schools that are filled with kids with learning disabilities. So I don't have normal friends because the school's 45 minutes away. So I don't have neighborhood friends. So I grew up kind of a loner. Eventually, I graduate high school, and I end up going to college. I went to college for fine arts.
Creative, basically.
Right. I was very creative. And, of course, my father said, you're never going to be able to do anything with that degree.
Old school parents, I think. They're like
you're supposed to get a degree in business or something you can.
Indian parents, typically. I'm Indian, so
we want you to be a lawyer, start your own business, or be a doctor or something. Once I graduated, I worked in insurance for a while.
You didn't like it?
I wasn't good at it.
Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork. Computers were not as easy to use as they are now.
Plus, you got to deal with the clients, the claims, and all that.
And it's a lot of memorization as far as using the computer, filling out the forms. They're kind of at that point they're going from paper to computers, but the computers are not window-based. It's a horrible system.
Got it.
And I didn't do well. And then eventually I ended up working construction. And after a couple of years working construction, I was dating this girl who was getting her degree in finance, and she started working for a mortgage company. And she said, "You've got to come do this. You'd be great at this." And so they hired me, and I very quickly realized I was very good at mortgages, very good at finance. I'm 28, 29 years old.
So you're really good at finance. And how did you figure it out? Like just by the first client, or is it like?
No, I think when they gave you like a 3 or 4 day course, and I'm in the middle of the course going, well.
I don't know what time was this?
Oh gosh, this was 1999, 98, 99. So I'm the only one in there saying, well, can't you do this? Well, couldn't they put their
So your
family
mind was always creative?
Right.
Like
so I'm sitting there, and it's so funny too because the instructor would stop and he'd look at me and he'd go, that's a great idea. Or he'd say, you're going to be very good at this. Because I would very quickly say, well, look, I understand this is a little bit gray area, but why does this person have to be the first person on the mortgage? Couldn't this person, you know what I'm saying? Do they have an alternative to, and he would be, say they're like, wow, you're talking about just removing the main person. I'm like, well, yeah, because you explained what a wraparound mortgage was. Like, can't he have this person qualify for the mortgage and then have them? And I'd explain it and they'd go, that's a good idea. Like that's creative financing. That's certainly possible. So I realized after I get my first client and I go in to close that loan, and I had all the paperwork, but I'm new. I don't really exactly know everything, and I'm not really checking everything. So I remember my manager looked through the whole file, and she put one piece of paper to the side, and she said, this looks great. I said, what's up with that form? And she said, well, your client was 30 days late on her rent in the last 2 years. She had what's called a 30-day late. And I knew that right then. I knew that was bad. That deal's not going through. They cannot be 30 days late in 2 years. And I was like, oh, man. I said, well, what can I do? And she said, even though I knew the deal was dead. And she said, if I was you, and she pulled out a thing of whiteout and started shaking the whiteout bottle. And she said, if I was you, I would white it out.
Oh, wow.
Make a copy of it.
You had a mentor, basically.
My mentor is a fraudster. Make a copy of it, stick it back in the file. She said, underwriting will never catch it. And I'm like, I said, that's fraud. I could go to jail. And she said, nobody's going to jail. The worst that will happen is if underwriting thinks you're involved, they'll fire you. And I was like, and I trusted her, and I thought, wow. And plus, by this point, I'm really behind on bills. So I did it. The loan closed a week later. I got a check for like $3,500.
Damn.
That was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I was thrilled.
Back in the day, too.
In Tampa, Florida, 20 some odd years ago, that was a ton of money.
Even today.
Yeah. Well, it caught my truck payment was a couple payments behind. My mortgage was, so I caught up on everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so the next person that came in the door, that person made, let's say $55,000 on their W-2. But if they made 60, they could get the loan. So I changed the W-2, I stick it in the file, it goes to underwriting, comes back, bam.
Were you convincing yourself that you're trying to help the other person?
Oh, of course.
And also helping
I can
yourself?
very easily justify it. If you're a criminal, you're criminal-minded, you can very easily justify pretty much anything to yourself.
Anything, right.
You know, I'm helping this person get into a house. They need this house. They're going to pay the bills. They said they can pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can justify that.
What's the mindset behind it too? Like, weren't you second guessing yourself at all? Like when you were doing it? Like initially, I guess you had the mentor kind of guide you, and then that sparked a light.
The only second guessing I was doing was the fact that I didn't want to get caught.
That's what it is. Like,
It would, like, if you're thinking,
you probably decided like everybody's doing it.
I mean, well, one, of course, that's one of the justifications, right? Like, you have to semi-justify it to yourself. But let's face it, once I got away with it once, you become emboldened by it. You get away with it twice, it's even better. 3, by the 4th, 5th time you've got a loan go through that you know has fraudulent documents, you start thinking nobody's watching, or I'm just that good. And as far as justifying it like, hey, this person should not get a loan, I always justified it as, I'm helping this person.
He's getting a house.
Right. This person, I'm not harming this person. They're getting what they want. They came in my office. They're asking me to help them get a loan. I'm getting them a loan. They said they can pay for it. These people, everybody's getting what they want. Underwriting wants the file to go through. The lender wants
Everyone's
to lend
happy,
the money.
basically.
Everybody's happy. I'm getting paid. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not thinking that, hey, there's a bunch of actuaries that compiled these underwriting guidelines, and they know they're way smarter than I am, and they know that what I'm doing is throwing a wrench in the machinery for people that it's not that they shouldn't get loans, they don't qualify for the loans, and that they're a much higher risk and probably are not in a position to really be able to pay those loans. This is somebody that should cut back on their bills and rent.
Is there like an example that you give us, like one of the loans that you wrote? Like,
I mean, I have a great example. I have examples the opposite way. Look, for instance, that girl that I got the mortgage for, she ended up, I actually refinanced her house like 2 years later, but that house ended up getting bought by a developer. So she bought that house for about $60,000. Refinanced it about a year or two later. About a year after that, that house got bought by a developer for like $200,000.
wow.
So she
made a profit.
She made she said, I got a check for like $150,000.
Yeah.
And she'll, to this day, she'll tell you, oh, that changed my life. You really helped me. Nobody lost in that deal. But she did not qualify for that loan. So I'll tell you an example. An example would be Steve Flaherty. Steve Flaherty came to me. This guy's in his 50s, 55. He was probably 50, 55 years old. He was married. And he came to me, had perfect credit. He had a very odd situation with his employment. He owned several companies that were W-2ing him, that he was doing work for, but he didn't really qualify. So what I did was I consolidated. I ended up creating an employer for him.
I see.
So it looked like he'd been on the job for 5 years, and he made plenty of money. He didn't really have a down payment, so he bought the property. I got the property to appraise much higher. We brought the down payment for him and had that money returned to a construction company so we could return our money. And we also gave him money out of the closing, so he had money to fix up the house. Completely structured deal that it was well structured, but absolutely fraudulent. It was illegal, completely broke the law. So he gets into ends up with 3 different quadplexes. I get him into it in a few months. He ends up buying a house for, let's say, I don't remember the exact numbers. Let's say it's worth $200,000. I get him a loan on the house. Same thing, doesn't put any money down, but he gets in the house. A year later, he comes to me and he says, Matt, I want to buy a bar. And I thought, okay. And he said, I forget what the amount was, let's say 50 grand. He goes, I need 50 grand to put down as a down payment. I said, okay. He said, I've only got a few $1,000s in savings. I think he had like 10 grand, but he needed that for operational capital. He goes, can you get me the 50 grand out of my house? And he just happened to have been in it a year. I ended up getting an appraiser to get me an appraisal, cherry pick an appraisal, by the way, really cherry picked it, really kind of inflated the value, said his house was worth about $250. I got him a 100% loan. So he walked away with 50 grand. He ended up buying a bar. I changed this guy's life. He's got like 3 3 or 4 quadplexes he's collecting rent from. He's living in a house that's amazing. He just bought a bar. He's rolling. He's kicking ass. I'd say 2 years later, I'm driving down the street. I got a brand new Audi. I'm balling, making tons of money. I was in the middle of a massive fraud. And I look over, and there's Steve Flaherty sitting on a park bench. And I beeped the horn. I go, Steve. And he's like, hey, Matt, what's going on? He gets up, and I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm taking the bus, man. He said, I'm waiting for the bus. I got to go to such and such. I go, get in. I'll take you. He gets in. I immediately smells like alcohol. And I could tell he hasn't shaved in days. And his clothes are, it looks like he's sleeping on the street. And I looked at it, I go, bro, what's going on? And he went, I said, where's Lois? That was his wife. Oh, okay. And he said, oh, bro, yeah, she left. She left like a year ago. And I went, what happened? And he said, oh, yeah. And as he's talking, I realized, fuck, he's drunk, man. And he said, yeah, you know what happened when I bought that bar? Like, it turned out that the liquor license was in the old owner's name. And one day the state came in, they took all the liquor and said I couldn't sell. And it's a sports bar. Oh, shit. He's like, so then I had to apply to get a new loan or a new license, and that took like 4 or 5 months, and so people weren't coming in
because the customer
they couldn't buy alcohol. They ended up the bar. He started taking money from the rental properties,
investing it in,
paying the lease.
Wow.
Not paying the mortgages on the rentals. They go into foreclosure. He gets evicted from the company. I'm sorry, from the complex where the bar is. His mortgage is behind. Within 6 months, he loses everything. And he started drinking again. He goes, I've always had a drinking problem. And I started drinking. I was under so much stress. And then eventually, after I lost everything, Lois left. She left me. And then I lost everything. And I don't have a job. I'm not working. And he's like, I just been kind of couch surfing. And, I sleep on the street sometimes. And I was just like, I drop him off. I'm an absolute
shock. Do you ever
shock.
Second guess yourself?
Not at that moment.
Okay.
It wasn't until years later.
Oh, okay.
I ended up writing a memoir, my memoir. I'm in prison. Okay. And I thought about that. And I thought, because I had always been like, wow, I can't believe how bad things went for him. And I had always kind of thought to myself, like, that poor guy. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, well, he started drinking, and that, like that probably led to this and all these things. It was a whole kind of one thing happened to, it was a domino effect. And it wasn't until later on when I was in prison writing my memoir that I thought to myself, no, you contributed to that. Listen, I knew this guy didn't qualify for those loans. I had a fiduciary responsibility to the bank, the finance companies, and my client to be able to say no. And I didn't. All I thought was I justified helping him, but the real motive was by helping him, I get a fee. It's hard to justify helping your client by saying, no, you don't qualify.